too often we are encouraged to grow without any evidence that what we're doing is working. The machine needs to be working before you try and put more miles on the clock.
Welcome to the Get On Busy podcast. I'm your host, Kate Philpott, and this podcast is all about throwing your busy work out the window. You deserve to stay locked in on the parts of your business that light a fire under your hoo-ha, all right? The passion-driven freedom lifestyle, not being glued to your laptop every waking minute of the day. It's time to build a business that works for you, not one that works you into the ground. So, let's get on busy, shall we? Hello and welcome back to the Get On Busy podcast. I am so excited for today's episode because we are getting into one of my favorite business conversations, which is how to make more sales without immediately defaulting to I need a bigger audience or I need more content or more everything. So today I am joined by the brilliant Zoe Dew, who is a data-driven sales strategist helping business owners scale in a way that's actually sustainable, aka not requiring them to sacrifice their whole life or personality or nervous system or freedom in the process. And we know that's what we're all about here. So Zoe has a background in sales, a serious gift for strategy, and a deep love for digging into the numbers so that business owners can stop guessing what's working and actually understand where their growth is coming from. And she helps people get clear on how to grow and then supports them to make it happen, ideally in a way that means they never have to go for a job interview again, which honestly, iconic. I love that. So she's also proudly neurodivergent, chronically online, and equally happy chatting about memes as she is about sales data and masking, which I feel like is the flavor we're all about here. So today we're going to jump into this and let's get to scale more predictably without spiraling into that kind of more mode. So Zoe, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for that introduction and thank you for having me. It's so funny because obviously I sent you a little snippet of kind of what I'm about, and every time I hear it I'm like, oh, this sounds really good. I'm like, yeah, I paid for someone to write it for me. Of course it sounds good. But yes, I couldn't have written it better myself.
Love it. Well, I suppose before we get into the deep end, can you just speak to how you actually got into this kind of work?
Yeah, of course. So my background is sales, specifically wedding sales. So I was a wedding venue coordinator for a very long time. So the weird thing about the wedding industry is you sort of conditioned to think it's one and done. So you're like, okay, I've got one chance to sell to these people and then I'm going to serve them and then they go and that's it. I've got one opportunity. And it's a really odd industry in terms of making money because repeat business is often, the chance for repeat business psychologically is quite low. But what happened with me was the venue that I ended up working at was my dream venue. It was my goal to work there and I was the head wedding coordinator and I had a budget of 3 million that I had to hit. And I was doing 185 weddings a year. And the location of that wedding venue is in the Ribble Valley, which very niche, but the Ribble Valley has the highest number of wedding venues per capita of anywhere in the country. So my competition was huge, but also the opportunity was huge because a lot of people would travel to that area to have a wedding. I had this quota that I needed to hit and I recognised that if I gave people a good wedding, there was 160 people at that wedding who potentially would also be getting married. And every person there would also have relatives that were getting married. So the most important thing was, of course, the most important thing was that they had a great wedding day, of course. But the most important thing was that all the guests felt like it was the best wedding that they had ever been to. So once I recognised that, I started to be able to have conversations with my couples of, who's in your wedding party, who is in your family, who are the people that need to have the best time. And what ended up happening was I had twin sisters both get married with me. I had cousins and aunties and uncles and friends of friends come because they'd been recommended because they'd had a great wedding day. So the other side of it was that I had to obviously 185 weddings a year. To do the maths, that's about one every other day, just over one every other day. So it's a lot. And so I needed the team and myself to be as efficient as possible. So I would build systems and ways of doing things and spreadsheets. And it was in 20 2016. So it was like before the advent of AI. Automations kind of were there, but not hugely. Fast forward a few years, I kind of had my own business, went and got a job, had my own business again, and now in like the have my own business realm. And I was finding it really hard to have traditionally, I've literally just posted a reel about it this morning. Traditionally, I've always found it really hard to grow my audience. I think because of my need for truth and balance and justice, I find it hard to be hyperbolic about anything that I do. I'm very clean cut. I'm like, okay, if you do this, this will happen. Not, if you try this, this might happen. I have to be very like down the line. So I've always found it hard to promise things that I know for most people aren't going to happen, because there has to be a special set of circumstances. I was working in a business where we made £1 million in an hour one launch. Like that was like the wildest thing. And then when I left that business, I had so many people come to me and go, I want you to do for me what you did for them. And I was like, I can't, because you're not them. It's just not, it won't happen. I can do all of the things and it still won't happen because you're not them. So I had this systemization and data brain of like pattern recognition and like, what does that mean? How can we make this happen? And I have always had the thought that if you know what your numbers are and you know what your data is, you can tell what the future's like. You can tell what's going to happen in the future. You can predict what's going to happen. And last year in 2024, I went down the group program route of like, oh, I need to have a group program. I need to do all this stuff. And I really lost touch with my audience. But they stayed around, but they weren't buying from me. So they were still there. And I was like, okay, well, they are obviously interested in me, but they don't like what I'm selling. So last year, I really had to dig into my past client base because my audience wasn't growing for the reasons that I've mentioned. I didn't have a great lead magnet. I didn't have a way of people working with me that was easy. I had this audience that didn't want to buy from me. And then I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I don't think I'm going to be in business next year. And so I went back into my past client base, looked at what we'd done the previous time. And that's where the system bit comes in. Like I've got a whole other business that's all systems building. And that sustained me for last year. And I did 6 figures just with people in my audience. And I was like, okay, there's something here. There's something here. And I like methodize this, or like, how can I pull out what I've done? Because it was just me doing it naturally, like going back to people who've already worked with you, as we know, because it's like touted so much, like retaining a client costs 5 times less than acquiring a new one. Okay, well, how can I make this more simple for people to be able to put into their own businesses? So yeah, that's a very long answer to the question that you asked. I'm sorry, but that's just like where I've come from.
No, I'm actually so glad you did, because I had no idea that that was your background. And that it's so interesting the way these things develop, isn't it? Because like, say my background as well is like, I definitely didn't start off being like, I'm going to be a productivity coach. I started off like studying psychology. And then when I finished that, I became a personal trainer, which after I got qualified as a personal trainer, I realized, oh, to be a personal trainer, I have to have my own business, which is the only reason I initially got into business. Then with that, it was like, oh, wait, I like having my own business, but like, holy shit, there's so much to do. And like, that's kind of how it naturally ended up going to productivity. So it's funny because like, you can't really write these things. No. So it's always interesting. Well, here's the thing. So I'm actually so interested to hear your thoughts on this, because obviously sales is a numbers game, right? But your approach doesn't seem to be just do more and more and more. Like when you hear numbers game, it's kind of like just like go, just like add more stuff. So what does numbers game actually mean to you then?
So I'm not going to sit here and be like, you never need to grow your audience. You never need to get more people. Like I'm in a season right now where I am trying to grow, because I absolutely have not made the most of the audience that I have, but also I need more people to see what I'm doing so that I can grow, because there is a finite number. I don't know what that is. Maybe one day I'll work out what it is, like what your expected return can be from the audience that you've got. But if you have been in a season of growth and nothing is happening, my argument would be the answer is never to keep growing. Because if you have grown, even if you've grown by 50 and nothing has happened, there's something wrong with something else in your business, not with the numbers. So like the reason why I know that I need to be in a growth season at the moment is because I've done really well with the numbers that I've got. So I know that if I can grow and repeat, I will have more success. I've got evidence that that is the case, that what I am doing is working. But too often we are encouraged to grow without any evidence that what we're doing is working. So you need to have the cycle, like whatever you want to call it, the machine needs to be working before you try and put more miles on the clock. That's probably like a better analogy to use. Because you can post all you want, email all you want, go on loads of podcasts, like do all of these things. But if you're pushing people to an email list that is not converting for you, then you need to figure out why the email list isn't converting before you try and put more people on it.
Yeah.
And the reason why a lot of people have big growth and why it's working for them is because however they are growing is how they're teaching you to grow. So like if someone is massive on Instagram and seeing massive Instagram growth, the likelihood is they're teaching people how to grow on Instagram. So, well, not the likelihood, but like often that is the case. So people who, like I saw it last year, someone was absolutely blowing up teaching people how to do trial reels, but they were blowing up because they were teaching people how to do trial reels. So like, if you don't have a business in teaching people how to do trial reels, then the method of their growth and their success is probably not going to work for you.
That's such a good point.
And if you...
My brain.
Yeah, I know. If you, like, once you realise that you can't stop seeing it, like, that's a bit of an issue, but yeah, it's fine. The thing that I also really encourage people to think of is if you are a service provider particularly, so not if you're a course creator, or I mean, maybe if you're a course creator, depending on what the course is, or a membership owner, but specifically if you work B2B or B2C as a service provider, realistically, how many clients does it take for you to be fully booked? Like if you're gonna do a really good job and you're gonna give everyone the attention they deserve, how many clients can you actually hold at one time? Because I would argue that for most service providers, 10 would be a massive number. Like it's probably more like 4 or 5, and even then it's going to be tight. So actually, do you need an audience of 2,000? Because you can't serve them. So you need to kind of flip it on its head and start with okay, what is my fully booked number? Is that money? And often what will come up with that is the money that they can make from being fully booked is not the money that they want to make, which is why they think they need more people. Whereas actually that's a pricing issue. You need to charge more from the people that you can serve, or it's an operational issue. So you need to bring in more team members so you can serve more people. The answer is not immediately go and get more people.
Oh my goodness. Okay. There's so much for my brain to chew on there. And I love that you brought up capacity as well, because obviously me working with productivity, that's something I see a lot is people don't really think about that, where I cannot remember where this example came from. I think it was from my previous business coach who was talking about one of her other clients from years ago. And she was saying one of her clients had I think it was some kind of Etsy business or something like that, where there were physical products and materials and things having to take a certain amount of time for her to make. And her income goals were when she actually broke it down with how much she would have to do, or how much she would have to, I can't even remember the specifics, but it was something about it's actually not possible with the amount of time that you have. So let's there's something else has to change here, rather than just let's go for this income goal and manifest it.
Yeah.
All of it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the people who teach that kind of stuff make money from teaching you how to make 10k months, 5k months, whatever your goal might be. Yeah. And they're not really interested in how you do it. They just have enough examples of people who have done it. And likely, they're examples of people who have done it. They're probably charging 5 or 10k for whatever service they're providing. It's just a whole pyramid. Not a pyramid scheme, I'm not saying it's a pyramid scheme, but it's just a pyramid that, or what's a better example? An inverse pyramid that is just ready to topple over, because it's not most of my clients. So I'll give you an example. In my membership, we are tracking over 8 weeks that as a group we make £100,000, and we are, last time I checked, we were sitting at 600,000. No, not 600,000, 60,000. Oh. 60,000.
Oh, right.
After
still unreal though.
I know, yeah. So we're on week 4, so we've tracked 60,000 in 4 weeks. But I'm just going to grab what the average is. It's taking its time. But most of my clients, the average is that, you know, what they are selling is probably under £500. It's not a huge ticket item. And I want there to be more normality in the online business space of like what people are earning, what they are charging, and that working with their capacity and actually being okay with that as well. Like, I sometimes have to sit back and think, okay, well, in the last big girl job that I had before my sojourn into operations management, in the last like job that I had that was not online, I was on £20,000. That was my annual salary. And I sit there now and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even believe that used to be my salary. It was absolutely okay. That was my salary. Like, I dreamt that I would be on that salary. And I think sometimes we all just forget that, like, this world is not real. And we need to just take it back a notch, you know?
I know.
I've got, like, I've just got this number now that I've gone into it. Yeah, so the average is £918 over the end of the 4th week. But collectively we've made 60k. And
unreal.
that's the kind, like, that kind of ratio I love, because I'm like, look, it's under £1,000 each, but they've all made money, so that means more to me.
And I know you love the numbers, so I'm sure this just makes sense, but I also just love that you track that over the course of the...
Yeah.
I love that. Like, and it just keeps it so solid.
Yeah, I track everything. So the promise is that they will make back 25% of their monthly income from being in there.
Okay.
And so when they're onboarded, I ask them what their monthly income has been over the last 3 months. And then I track if they've made that money back. And I track everything, like how they felt about the week, when they've done a sales activity, how did that feel? Like, was it a drain on their energy? Did it feel really good? All that sort of stuff. Because too often I think people concentrate on tracking the numbers. So they can be like, look how much money everyone's made, but actually everyone felt shit when they were doing it. Or they track how wonderful everyone feels, but no one made any money. So, like, that's not really useful either. And don't get me wrong, like, not everyone will make money in this. You know, I've got 66 participants, and I think probably we'll end on about 45 having made some money. But that is also to do with effort. Have they actually done anything? Like, if they've not done anything, they're not going to make any money.
Yeah.
But also it means that at the end, I can go back to them, and this is a retention piece, and say, look, this is everything that you've achieved whilst being in here. Like, why don't we do it again? And it's all so important in the repeat business retention world to be able to say to people, in fact, do you know what? I used to have a service called Look How Good You're Doing, because it was me going through and being like, look, this is everything you're doing that's really good. Let's do more of it. And yeah, because I kept writing these reports and I kept writing in them, you're doing really well. Like, you think that you're not, but you're doing really well. And generally, the reason why people don't think they're doing well is because they're not tracking what they're doing. So they've got no way of, like, comparing a bad week to a good week.
Yeah. And, you know, something you said there reminded me of, goodness, when I started out in business. You were saying, like, you know, if you're making money but you feel shit, or, like, you know, I had a coach. This was like my first ever business coach. This is probably 2018, 2019. And he was very, like, I'm masculine energy when it comes to, like, logical thinking and stuff like that, but, like, the masculine energy was very intense. It's like, I don't give a shit if you like this or not. You wanted this income goal, like, this is what you're doing. And it was all around, like, cold calling. And okay, I'm also an introvert, so, like, nothing could drain my energy more. And it was cold calling with a view to booking them in for, like, 2 discovery calls, not just 1 but 2. So it was just like, my days were just packed full of, like, trying to get people on these calls and then having these calls, and I hated every single second of it. And, like, I just look back at that and I'm like, oh yeah, I did start making money, but I genuinely was so miserable. And honestly, if you're gonna be that miserable in business, like, why not just get a job where you don't have to put that kind of effort in? Like, there's no need for that.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, we all started businesses because we couldn't work for someone else anymore, and part of that needs to be that you feel good about what you're doing. And I feel like that story will not be unique to you. I think a lot of people will have had that experience completely. I
think particularly those few years ago as well, it was more common. Luckily, we've bounced back more towards, like, feeling good, but I think there's also a bit of balance of, like, obviously, like, you know, do what you gotta do, but at the same time. not in a way that drains every, morsel of your soul.
Completely. Yeah, there's some dodgy people out there, definitely.
Yeah. Well, okay, so talking about sales then, when someone decides that they want to ramp up their sales, like what are the actual metrics that you have them look into? I'm sure it probably depends on the person, but what comes to mind is like top?
So there's 4 areas that you can look at before you even start to think about going and marketing yourself. So firstly, the like lowest hanging fruit, to not be super gross in the way that I talk about people, but like the easiest route, depending on the business, generally will be the people who love working with you, are current clients, have worked with you for a long time. I mean, I generally work with service-based businesses, so that's like where I'm coming from with this. If you have a product-based business, it would be slightly different, but just take it with a pinch of salt, like take what you can from it. So the people who love working with you, have been long-term clients, have come back to you repeatedly, generally are going to fit the profile of your ideal client pretty much exactly. Like when you think of an ideal client, they are the person that you're going to think of because they pay on time, they do the work, and they love working with you. So firstly, I would go to them and say, look, I've got a few spaces in my diary, or I've got a few spaces in my capacity. Is there anyone you know that would be a good fit for working with me? You've worked with me a lot before, like you know how I work, you know the results that I can achieve. I would love to have any introductions that you might know of. And also I pay a referral fee. So for me, my referral fee is generally a 25%. So I would say, because I mean, I would run my business on referrals if I could. So I pay highly for my referrals because I'm just like, it's the easiest route in. So, and if you don't have a mechanism for paying for referrals, then I would up your prices and have a mechanism for paying for your referrals because it's the easiest business relationship that you can build. And the reason for that is people will come in off. So I came to you and say, look, Kate, I've got some capacity. You know what I do. Could you introduce me to anyone? Your thought processes will be, oh, okay, yeah, I'll have a think. And then you'll be thinking of it and you will send some people my way, because as humans, we want to help and we want to be that person that makes sure that other person has a great experience. And if your clients have had a great experience, they will want their friends to have that too. So I would start with looking at who would be a good referral partner. Generally, you will maybe have 5 of those in your audience or in your past client list. I can think of, like for me, I can think of 4 right now who would be absolutely perfect. So have that conversation first. Then I would look at those clients and see when you're finishing working with them. So is it a 3-month commitment that's coming to an end? Is it a 6-month commitment coming to an end? Is it a retainer that doesn't have an end date? Can you lock them in for a longer period? Can you retain them? So can you make them come back to you? And then there's the next layer down. So that's clients who have finished working with you in the last 6 months to a year. Depends on what you do. So if it's like if you're a coach, it might be within the last year. But if you are a PT, it might be within the last 3 months. It just depends on like what you do as to how far back you go. So with them, I would look at what you did with them and the problem that you solved. And an objection I often get is, well, I already worked with them and I solved that problem. Like we fixed it and it's fine. But fixing that problem will have created new problems. So do you have an offer or do you have a way of working that would solve those new problems of where they are? Also, when working with someone, you'll be having conversations about what they want to do in the future. So you need to be recording those conversations somewhere. So I would go back to the people who have worked with you in the past year, up to a year, I would say, and just start a new conversation with them. You're not going to them and saying, I'd love to work with you again. That's really shitty. Don't do that. You go back to them and go, oh my God, it's been ages since we've spoken. Where are you up to with this? I know you were working towards this goal. Not in a really wanky coachy way, but just in a human conversation relationship. You had a relationship with this person. Start that relationship again, and then try and figure out where they are, and then just keep top of mind with them. So when that conversation comes to a natural end, schedule for yourself in your diary or your CRM system or your lead tracker, get in touch with them in another month with them and like see where they're up to. And then finally, this is the one that people generally will go to first. Actually there's 2, but in terms of past clients, this is the one people will go to first, but it's the one that you need to go to last, is re-engage. So these are people who have been in your world for a while and they've never bought from you. So if they have bought, they've bought $9 things, $19 things. They've never spent more than $100 with you, but they have been in your world for a long time. So they are the people that you need to figure out why they've not spent more money with you. So that would be like market research conversations and just trying out and testing different little offers that, you know, might entice them in. And then the secret one that I don't talk about really, because it's not relevant, but I'm going to mention it in terms of it not being relevant, is putting new content out there, trying to bring cold people into your world, and broadcasting. So what I think a lot of people fall into the habit of if they want to increase their income is broadcasting to the world. So sending out email blasts, posting content on social media platforms, coming on podcasts. They do that type of thing because they think that's going to bring more people into their world. And if they've got more people, that means they're going to make more money, right? No, because those people need to become clients for you to make more money. And trying to convince someone cold to buy from you is going to take a hell of a lot longer than going asking someone who's already paying you to send more people your way.
Okay, thank you for making that so simple, but also like explaining each. And you're so right. Like when I look at the industry and coaches and like how people are going out and getting clients, like for the most part, everybody's like, social media, social media, social media. And like, that's the way. And like, you're going to get rich if you master this thing. And it's like, that just makes so much sense. Like, I look back at, if just from the client perspective, if I look back at coaches I've worked with, if they reached out to me, like, I'd be happy to refer them to other people. I would be happy to, if I needed the extra help or help with another thing, I'd be happy to resign and stuff like that. So it actually makes so much psychological sense. So yeah, love that.
Most of the sales that you aren't making are because you're not having a conversation. It's never the client. I had a back and forth with a sales coach last week, and I was going to book, and I was away for the weekend, so the email came through. I ended up booking with someone else, and she reached out on the day of the call we had scheduled and was like, "Are we still okay for today?" And I was like, "No, I've not paid. Like, you didn't follow up with me. You didn't remind me. You didn't tell me that you'd sent me the link. I've booked with someone else." Like, and I think we just assume that people aren't having conversations with lots of people. They are. You need to keep top of mind, but that doesn't mean posting more.
Yeah. And then speaking of the social media side of things and like audience and everything, is there a difference then between an audience that like looks engaged versus an audience that's actually ready to buy?
Yes. So you need to be, the signals that you need to be looking for are sort of private. Well, it depends what you do. I think probably in your realm, people are more happy to put their hand up publicly and say like, yeah, I need help with this. Like, I'm really good at what I do, but I struggle with time management, or I struggle with whatever. Like, yes, help me. With what I do, people generally don't want to put their hand up and say, I want to make more sales, or money's not where it needs to be. So if you work in, so like I would say like if you work in fitness, probably is quite similar to me. Nutrition is probably quite similar. Any sort of money related stuff is quite similar. Content generally will be louder. So if they want help with content, they're happy to comment. They're happy to put their hand up and say, yeah, I need this. So you need to figure out in your industry, the broad industry. So I'm not talking about like, oh, I am a manifestation coach who helps people find their purpose. Like, that's not, I'm talking about like the broad industry of where you sit. So that would be mindset. What are the signals that people give to people in that industry to say that they're ready to purchase? So in my world, the signals that I get are saves. If a piece of content is getting saves, I know that's resonating. And I know that generally will push people towards my email list. Like, my source of truth for everything is my email list, so like push people there. And sharing, like every so often I'll get shares. I don't really necessarily get many reactions, like private reactions to stories. I mean, I'm an Instagram baby, so like everything's on Instagram. But then also, say it's LinkedIn, if I post a piece of content and then get connection requests off the back of that content, like generally I would say that is working quite well. And then with my email list, if I'm getting replies to emails that I'm sending, and generally if I get one reply, I'll get 5. So I'll know when it's hit because I'll get quite a few. But then on the flip side, if you're looking at your content and you're like, I'm not really getting any likes and no comments, but I'm getting loads of saves, that means that people like it. They just don't want to be seen to be liking it. They don't want to be seen that they need help.
Yeah.
And then you can look at things like clicks, open rates on emails, like don't even bother with, but clicks on emails generally mean intent, but then what are you doing with those clicks? Like, are you recording those clicks and following up with those people? I'm going to guess not. Like, most people won't be. They're just broadcasting and then hoping for the best that someone's going to buy, but the world doesn't work like that anymore. So you need to be having a list of people who are clicking and then going, what did you think? You haven't bought. Can I help you? Do you need any more information? People give you lots of signals. It's just that we've been taught that the signals are people going, yes, I want this, send me a link to pay. Whereas actually the signals are a lot more subtle than that, and you need to know what they are for you to be able to then capitalise on them.
Zoe, this is gold. I'm doing this. Oh my God. Like, my brain is going to so many places. I'm like, oh yeah, snaps. So thank you. And actually, you mentioned follow-up, and I know you're a big fan of follow-up. So I'd love if you could speak to like the mindset around that, like what stops people, why it's so beneficial, that kind of thing.
The reason why 99% of people listening to this will struggle with follow-up probably falls into one of two categories. So number one is, and I don't like sales. Like, it just feels really sleazy. Like, if people wanted to work with me, they would come to me. So that's side one. The second side is, I don't have a problem following up, but I don't want to annoy people. Like, that's the other side. So like, you've got the two sides of removing themselves from sales activity and just expecting people to buy, and then happy to put themselves in there, but not wanting to get rejected, basically, is like what that comes down to. And both of those sides are driven by you. So they're driven by your ego and you putting yourself in the center of the situation.
Yeah.
So you need to do some work in your brain on framing follow-up as, well, there's lots of things that I could speak on, but number one, do you watch RuPaul's Drag Race? Have you ever seen it?
I haven't watched it.
So there's a phrase in that called, this is not RuPaul's best friend race. Okay, it's RuPaul's Drag Race. So they're in a competition to win. So I will often throw that at people and be like, this is not business best friend race. Like, these people who you are wanting to reach out to are not your friends. Like, they might be your friends, but they're not, like, in the terms of your business, you are running a business, you want to make money. That's not bad, that's good. Like, if we make more money, there's more money in the world, and you know, it's all secular, isn't it? Cyclical, not secular, cyclical. And so if these people have inquired with you or shown any kind of signal that they want to buy from you, why are you doing yourself a disservice of not going back to them and going, you said you wanted this, has something changed? But most of the time, say 80% of the time that people don't buy is because they forget, like they move on. So you need to put yourself back in front of them and go, you were interested in this, are you still interested? And I would say 80% of the time again, most people come back and go, oh yeah, sorry, like something happened, I put my phone rang, or I put it down, or the dog barked, or whatever it was. Thank you so much for reminding me of the opportunity, and I'll go and buy now. And you only need that to happen maybe 5 times. Like, you only need a few people to say that back to you, and you go, okay, well, I'm just reminding them of that they wanted to buy. And then I would also have if you've had bad experiences with people in the past, then I'm really sorry that you've been through that. However, I work on the premise that most people are good. Most people are good people. They might do shady things, but most people are good people. It's really unlikely that someone's going to turn around to you and go, F off, I don't want you to get in touch with me. Like, they've shown an interest in what you're doing. So even if they go, oh no, I'm not interested. Like, if the worst thing that's going to happen is one of two things, they're going to say, no, I'm not interested, or they're going to ghost you. Like, they're not going to tell you anything worse than that. And until you start getting no's or start getting yeses, until you start asking, you don't know what your rate is. You don't know how many asks you need to make to get a yes. You kind of need to gamify what you're doing to be able to then start seeing success from it. But I actually did a reel last week, I think it was, about experimentation and getting rejected. And once I started treating it as experimentation and like, oh, what do people react to? Following up in different ways, knowing what works for me. Once you find what works for you, you can do more of it. So that means that it's going to succeed. It's just, you just need to start having those conversations first of all.
Yeah. And just on the gamification piece, I'm really interested. So like, how would you do that?
I mean, there's lots of things you can do. Like, so this is not for no's, but I've got like a list here. I'm just showing Kate like a list that I have. So I will Liz Mosley does something called the 50 no's challenge. So you set out to make 50 asks And the aim is to get no's. So you want to get a no from every ask that you make. I've done that a few times before and I've never got to 50 ever. And I've mainly got yeses to what I've asked for. So it's things like,
yeah, if
you need to start in your personal life, like Hannah Eisted at the moment is doing an Operation Big Fish challenge, and she went to ask for 10% off in a coffee shop and she got it. Like, if you start to make these asks, so when you follow up with people, you might sit down and think, okay, I'm going to follow up with all of these inquiries that I've had. I mean, ultimately, how many inquiries are you getting? Like, you're probably not getting that many, but a follow-up is rarely going to be a no outright. It might be a not right now, or come back in May, or it's May now, come back in July. So then you just come back again. But the other thing is, as well, on the flip side, you need to get really good at saying no when you don't want something. So you need to get really, if you inquire with someone and then you think, actually, this isn't for me, you need to tell them, because that's the kindest thing you can do is say, actually, no. And they will be happy that they don't have to follow up with you again. So that's one way of gamifying it, like just making it something that you can check off. Another thing is to reward yourself. So for every 4, 10, 20 follow-ups you do, go and get a coffee, go and, take the afternoon off and go to the cinema, whatever it might be. Reward yourself for doing the action. And then the other thing is reward yourself for any money that you make. So, okay, and you see people doing this on Threads quite a lot, like, with this launch, when I hit 10, I'm going to get my nails done or whatever it is. But the most important thing with all of it, if you can, is to make it public. So, I'm trying to grow my email list at the moment, and I've just made it public. I'm like, right, I'm going to do this before this date. Here's how I've got on today. And having that external validation, but also external accountability will really help to make it fun.
Yeah. And also, I love when people do that. I love to follow along. It could be something that, full transparency, I don't care about. I don't care about how, I watched this one YouTuber, she has a garden, a home garden. She grows her own vegetables. I don't really care about how your vegetables are going, but because you're building or you're bringing me along on the journey, I want to see. You told me that you're hoping these ones are going to go well, and you've never tried these ones before. I'm gonna be clocking in and seeing how that goes.
Yeah, completely. Because you get invested in people's journeys. It's like when people do, what have I been watching on TikTok recently? There's someone who's moved to New York and they're trying to find an apartment. I watch every single apartment hunting video. I'm never going to move to New York, and I'm never going to be looking for an apartment, but I still know that I wouldn't live in that area, and that's too much for that unit and all that sort of stuff, and you get invested. Yeah. So sharing publicly helps keep you accountable to keep going.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, love that. Okay, one thing I definitely want to ask you is on tracking metrics. So how do you normally track these things? Is it in a dashboard?
Yes.
Is there anything that can be automated from this?
Yes, everything. So I am an Airtable evangelist. I use Airtable for everything. Airtable is a database software. There are others out there. I don't think any of them work as well as Airtable for this stuff. So you can try and use Notion or Sheets, or people will throw ClickUp in there. ClickUp's not really meant for that kind of work. Whatever you use pen and paper. I don't care. But yes, it can be automated. So I use Claude. This is quite a recent thing for me. I use Claude and Airtable together to automate as much of the process as possible. I used to do this with Zapier, but it involved a lot of manual setup, and it still involved me. I'm not very good at checking my numbers. Also, with things like email, people might save my emails to read at the end of the week. So actually checking the email stats weekly doesn't really work, because you need to be checking back. So I've just set up some things with Claude and Kit, where Claude will go and scan my emails that I've sent over the past month, update all of my stats for that. And then I've also connected Claude to analytics, so I can now scan where people have come from to join my list. And I also have automation between, so I use ConvertBox to bring people onto my email list. Obviously everything I do is geared towards my email list, because I don't trust Meta Analytics. So I then have in ConvertBox, I have a cookie tracker on there, and so that goes into Google, into Airtable, so I track where people have come onto my list from in Airtable, and that also pings over to me in Slack, so I get a little dopamine hit every time someone joins my list, and I can see where they've come from as well, so I can see what channels are really working for me. Although this week it's literally been all over the place, it's been everywhere, so I don't even know how much you can trust it. But the most important thing is it doesn't really matter what you track. Like, people can tell you to track whatever you want to track. It doesn't really matter as long as you're tracking the things that make you money. So if you can work out what you need to track to show that you're making money so you can do more of it, that's what you need to track. I would argue open rates on email, probably not going to show you how to do that, but tracking where people come from absolutely will, so you can put more effort into where people come from, put more effort into those channels.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually didn't realize that Airtable was so good for that kind of thing, so I'm glad you said that, especially with automating things.
Oh, like Airtable is my source of truth for everything. But basically, the thing about putting everything in Airtable is you can just like chuck everything in there as long as you're recording it and do something with it later. But you can build interfaces that just show you what you want to see. So you don't even need to look at the grid if you don't want to. But my whole membership is really fun and gamified, but that's all built on Airtable. And then I've built a front end portal for everyone to access everything. So that means that I can then, every week, I write a report on the membership for the members to go like, this is where everyone spent their time this week. This is what's making money. This is what isn't making money. But they don't see the Airtable side of it because they're not really bothered about that. It just means that I have somewhere where everything... I mean, I've built whole automation, like theatre ticket delivery systems in Airtable. Like, it's so wild what you can do with it. But yeah, I don't need to go into that today.
Yeah. Well, I love nerding out about that kind of stuff. But, well, I really look forward to having you at the Now That's a Group Program Summit in July. But in the meantime, where can our listeners find you, and like, what's the next best step?
So I'm the same social media handle across all platforms, Zoe Dew, so ZOERDEW. And the best place to kind of yap with me is on Instagram or Threads. Like, I'm pretty keen on Threads as well. If you want to have a email come to you every Sunday telling you what you can do this week to win a new client, well, an existing client back, I have an email series called Booked by Friday, and that's zoedew.com/booked. And the first email will give you a script to win back a current client. Someone used that a few weeks ago. They sent the email at 4:14, and by 4:34 they'd been paid $1,500. So it definitely works. It's the best place to... That's the best, yeah. And you will get that email every Sunday, a new idea of what to do. So yeah, they're the best two places to find me.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to have all of those bits and bobs linked in the show notes below if you're listening. And Zoe, thank you so much for coming on. This is such a juicy conversation, and I already know you're so welcome. And I already know people listening are going to feel probably deeply called out, but in the best way, about how they're approaching sales and conversations and numbers and all that stuff. So, and those of you listening, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you're subscribed or following the Get Unbusy podcast, wherever you're listening. Thank you, and I'll chat to you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
All right, gorgeous. That's a wrap on today's episode of the Get Unbusy podcast. If you got some juicy golden nuggets from this episode, I want to hear about it. So take a screenshot, share it on your Instagram stories, and tag me at More to Life Kate, because your girl wants to know. And remember, you're an absolute powerhouse. You can create the life you've been dreaming of, and I can't wait to see you pop off. Chat to you soon. Bye.